Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Everybody is great. How's everybody doing? I'm loving to see that we have some student athletes that joined us along with our partners. This is going to be a great day, and I am super excited to lead us on our first NIL training camp today. So I think I'll start with some introductions. I am Mark Smith. I am the Chief Development Officer for the Icon1901. And we have our CEO, LaShanda Love, that is on with us as well as good morning, LaShanda, as well as Marvin Nichols, who is our Chief Marketing Officer. And she has been the one that has really spearheaded this and got us to this point. So this is going to be a great day. We do have a good agenda and lots of information to share with you all today. We do have a couple of guests that were not able to make it, but that's okay, because guess what? That just means that you're going to all be able to come back again and have that same experience that we have in the future. But I'm going to just kick things off and kind of set the table for today. So we have our partner, Pete. We call him Pete NIL. He is going to talk about our compliance piece and make sure that we are covered there. We also have a couple of segments that we've already pre-recorded talking about podcasts and kind of building your brand and things like that, and some things that we are offering. And then we also have our partners from Print for Players that are going to be sharing some exciting opportunities for the student athletes to really get started and get things rolling. So this is going to be a great day for us. And Steve, thanks for joining us as well. Really appreciate you being on. Before we get started, LaShanda, Marva, you all want to speak and say anything?
Go ahead, LaShanda.
I'd just like to say thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. And I want the students to know that we're here for you, and everybody that's come to this webinar today is here to support you in any way you can. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. And thank you guys for coming.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marvin Nichols. I'm the Chief Branding and Marketing Officer for the Icon Collective. And I am so excited to see all of you all this morning. We have some great speakers on today. We want you to stay until the end, and we actually have an NIL apparel deal for you if you would like to join the Icon Collective. So please stay tuned the entire time. You won't be disappointed. Thank you.
All right. Oh, that's awesome. So Marva, I know you put together the agenda. Why don't you just cover the agenda, and then we'll go ahead and get started, because we know holiday weekend, but this is important stuff. So let's get started.
All right. Let us get to our agenda. First up, we will have a pre-recording by Mr. Jonathan Jones, who is from Jonathan Jones Speaks. He's going to be speaking about podcasting for players. Also, we will have Getting Your NIL Business Straight by Peter. I can't say your name, Peter, that last name. I don't want to chop it up.
Schoenthal, like show it all. That's what the kids
all
say
right,
growing up.
Schoenthal. I love that. Love that. Let me come off of my video here. And then we have Let's Talk About Name, Image, and Likeness. We have Steve Simmons here from NIL Partners. And then we will have The Real Deal about NIL and finances by attorney David Dirks, who's our Chief Compliance Officer here with the Icon1901 Collective. And our last presentation is I Am What I Wear. I Am What I Wear, NIL Apparel Merchandise Deals by Bobby Hernandez from Print for Players, which is also pre-recorded. And then we'll come back, and Mark, who's our business developer, will wrap us up. And there will also, again, be Q&A after our seminar if you have questions. So Mark, take it off, or you want me to just go into the
Hey, let's get started. Let's get started with that first episode that we recorded this week. And, you know, I want to just tee this up by saying how important it is for content and other things. So we have a great opportunity right now this summer for you to really work on building your brand. So we're just offering more than just, you know, deals and stuff like that. We're offering things that will benefit you far beyond this, right? You never know how this is going to come up. Jonathan Jones is a partner of ours. And what he's going to do is he's going to set everyone up with their own podcast. And he's going to coach you, develop you on that, and make sure that you understand how to monetize and build that brand for yourself. So tune into this, watch this. It's about 12 minutes or so. Listen in to the questions, and then we'll come back.
Welcome. Today is part of our NIL training camp. And today I had the pleasure of speaking with Jonathan Jones. He is a student athlete consultant that helps kids with their podcasts and developing who they are. He has a ton of information to share with us today, and we are super excited to have him. This partnership just came about by us finding each other, and it was something that we knew we needed for our student athletes. So I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan and let him introduce himself, and then we're going to come right back with some questions, and we're going to get right down to business.
Excellent. Well, Mark, once again, thank you for the opportunity. And, I'm all about helping student athletes develop holistically so that they can be in position to thrive, not just for the next 4 years, but ultimately for the next 40. So that's really just the short of who I am and what I do. And the focus, or the vehicle that I've been using, has been podcasting to show student athletes how they can take these skills, how they can leverage it, not only just for brand building, but ultimately legacy building. So, glad to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, that's great, Jonathan. Thank you so much. So let's get right down to it. Why do you think the student athletes need a podcast, or why do you think it's necessary?
Certainly. It comes down to the point of knowing that we're in a time to where student athletes, they have cameras in their face, they have microphones in their face, and they're gaining a level of traction or notoriety. So they're getting followers and they're getting likes, but what does that really translate to over a longer period of time? So I believe that student athletes need to have a podcast, because now they're getting to take hold of the audience that they have, and then they can potentially monetize the audience, or they can leverage that audience for them to, be able to generate revenue, but even outside of that, be able to, establish that authority and build that tribe.
No, that's excellent. I think really great feedback. Tell us a little bit about your background and how this came to be and why you thought this was important. I think it's something that's really needed. I'm really glad that you're here for the student athletes that we will be working with.
So my background is I played junior college ball, and I was never the star athlete. I was never the best one. I was further towards the end of the bench, actually. And then I ended up finishing up at a 4-year institution playing basketball as well. But after, I still couldn't really navigate, just in terms of identity, who I was outside of sport. And then not being able to navigate that made it difficult for me to determine, okay, what am I going to do now? What skills do I have? And ultimately, what am I going to do for a career? So for being in that spot, being in that position, now that's why I'm turning back and reaching my hand out to show student athletes what they can do with their podcast now, because the pandemic affected me like it did many other people. And I had to sit and I had to think, what can I do now that can help me pay these bills? And what can I do that I also enjoy? And that was when I started speaking at colleges, and I started realizing that the majority of student athletes, they struggle with identity. A lot of student athletes don't know what they enjoy doing outside of their sport. And then from me seeing that, I realized that a podcast is the opportunity for you to identify things you're passionate about, and then be able to share those things, share those interests, and then you can show other people and introduce them to new things that they might have never known anything about. So that's really just the backstory of how I got involved really with podcasting. And up until this point, I've been podcasting for right around about 6 years. So, using the vehicle, learning about myself, but then also learning about other passions I have, and then being able to build relationships with people all across the country.
No, that's great. So, you know that the Icon 1901, we are a collective, right? And we work with student athletes on a number of different things, their brand, building businesses, bringing businesses together to support them. So tell me how you think the podcast space plays in with NILs as far as, those students being able to use this to practice their skills and things like that.
Yeah, so student athletes, Mark, have a great opportunity because one, with you all in the Icon Collective, you all are setting them up for the opportunity to lock in sponsorships and setting them up for true opportunities. And then what a podcast really is doing is pouring on gasoline on top of that fire, because now you don't just have a spot to where you're going in, you're like, okay, I get a partnership, I get a brand deal, I get a sponsorship. But now it's the opportunity to where every time you're recording an episode, right? Every time a student athlete records an episode, now they can take the slew of sponsors that you all have helped them solidify and that they've worked to solidify, and now they can insert those sponsors in different parts of their show, right? So imagine having just the perfect ingredients for the best recipe possible. So that's really a higher authority because of the fact that they have an established platform through a podcast, as opposed to them just, posting a picture here, posting a picture there.
Right. So what would you say are some of the barriers that you see that keep student athletes from, starting a podcast? I mean, is it education? They don't know how to. And I know that's really what your company, your business model does, right? It shows them how to be successful in doing that. And that's why we said this was something that we need in our toolbox for our students. So what do you think are some of those barriers?
Well, one of the biggest barriers is going to be that imposter syndrome, because just like we were talking about offline, a lot of student athletes and a lot of adults, like, Mark, let's be honest,
Right.
a lot of us, we're fearful of what we don't understand, or let me rephrase it, we're fearful of what we don't take the time to understand, right? Because there's a lot of information out here, and we have books, we have YouTube, but if we don't take the time to learn and understand and then say, well, how could a podcast really benefit me? Then that's going to be the biggest barrier anyway. So it's just that part, that fear and that imposter syndrome. And then the other piece is just going to be doing the work, right? A podcast, there's a great opportunity for people who are starting podcasts, and especially student athletes now, because they're getting more and more attention. So therefore, if you have more attention, then more people are going to see you and see what you're doing. And these could potentially become more customers. But if you don't do the work of actually creating the podcast, people can't do business with you. If you don't take the time and put the store in place, nobody's going to come and shop with you. So, it's one of those things as well. So we have to make sure that, and that's one thing I always want to make sure I'm honest about, is letting them know that it is work, but there is a great benefit and there's a great opportunity for a return.
That's great. I'm speaking from experience. I have a son that's going to be a student athlete at a university. He's plays a sport. He was like, I don't really know if I want to do a podcast, but I'm thinking beyond that and what it does for him. I'm not just thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 years. I'm thinking about how he can pull on that experience 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So do you think that some of these podcast skills that they're going to learn from you have that type of longevity?
I would say hands down, without a doubt, because from the research that I've seen and I've done, the top 5, top 10 skills that CEOs are looking for, these skills, if we look at what it takes to put together a podcast, these skills can be matched up to those things, right? Because we've seen many commercials, and some good, some are horror stories, because there are people who they can't speak. They can't. And what brand would want to pay you to fumble over sharing the benefits or sharing why their brand is valuable? not many brands at all that I know. So, you know, with public speaking being one of the prime ones, and as we keep talking about NIL, and as we keep talking about student athletes who I know, you know, they want to be the face of a brand. They want to have ownership in a company. But can you clearly share what the value proposition is for this company? And can you clearly state what the benefits are? If we can't do that, then we have a real problem. So that's by far one of the best skills that anyone can ever acquire, is knowing the ability, or knowing how you best learn, but then also being able to convey that information. And then when you can do that, then you can name your price.
No, that's great. Great feedback there. I really enjoy what you're saying, and I can see the benefits from this. So, you know, this here was our first NIL training camp. It's just an introduction, right? We're going to do more, and we have more. Can you leave us with like 3 things or 5 things, however many you think is necessary, of what the student would gain by going through one of your sessions and learning from you?
Yeah. So the first thing is you will gain all the mistakes, right? I said I've been doing this 6 years. I've tried the majority of the platforms that you can name. I have like 6 microphones over here. So the first thing is I would be able to share with you my mistakes that I've made and help you not doing those. So you go from 0 years experience to 6 years experience out the gate. The second thing would be you would get the opportunity for us to have a conversation and for me to help you strategically build your podcast out. And that's the problem where a lot of people struggle, because like, I don't know, does this make sense, or what about that? And then I'm going to coach you through the process. So that'd be the second thing. And then the third thing is I'm going to have a cohort. So we're going to have all the student athletes together who are building and creating their podcast. So now there's going to be that community support. So all of the student athletes who are familiar with being a part of a team, that now you're going to have that support and encouragement for each other. So those 3 things, I would say, you get my mistakes, you know, the negatives that I've gone through, but also the benefits. Then you get the coaching. So me talking with you, helping you strategize. And then the third thing is you would get that community support. So those 3 things right there would be probably the biggest and some of the best things that anybody can have going into anything new.
Well, that's great. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to give away too much about what we have going on. We definitely know that we have a number of people that are truly interested in doing this. And this is really going to benefit us, and it's going to benefit our students. So everyone take a look. There's a quick ticker going across the bottom. Follow Jonathan on everything you can, because he has a wealth of knowledge and information. He's active in it. This is what he does. This is his passion. We wanted to make sure that we brought somebody on the team that could truly help you. And guess what? We're all going to be successful behind this. So I just want to thank you, Jonathan, for your time today. We're going to get these students signed up, enthused about it. I don't care if they're shy, they never spoke before. We're going to show them how to make this happen. And then just the ability to be able to follow them and see their success, and to be able to monetize things behind this is really going to be key for us. So I really appreciate your time, and I am super excited, and we are glad that you partnered with the Icon1901 collective to make this happen for all athletes. I know we focus on HBCUs, but there are others that are going to be watching this just because of who we know. And we want them to know that they can also reach out to you, and that they can also participate in this as well.
Most definitely. And I'm looking forward to really helping these young leaders, take hold of their voice, really build that confidence in who they are.
Yes. No, that's awesome. So thanks again, and we'll be in contact soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So that was our first speaker there, Jonathan Jones. Hopefully you all thought that was beneficial and got something out of it.
You see, he teaches this. This is what he does, and he's really about us having our voice and being able to get out there and do it. The world doesn't work if we don't take hold of things that are out there. So that's really important. All right. So we'll come back at the end. And if you have a question, drop it in the chat about anything that you just learned there about Jonathan. But our next speaker is Pete NIL. And we are super excited to have him. Tell you a little bit about Pete. He reached out to us. He's one of those type guys that's out there, looking at who's doing what in this NIL space. And he just came to us, and his initial speech was, I want to partner with you. He wasn't about, hey, this is what I can do for you. He said, no, I want to partner with you. And we are very fortunate to have someone in our team like this. And he's not only looking at just the schools that we have right now, but he's looking at the future and the future athletes that will come join us and where they're going to need his help, where these schools will, because they're not set up for this. This is uncharted territory, and he is the man that is leading the way in this space. So Pete, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's get started.
Well, I appreciate that introduction, and a little bit about me. I'm Peter Schoenthal. I'm the CEO of Athliance. We are a compliance, disclosure, and education software company. But the reason I wanted to come on here is because we only focus on disclosures. We are working with universities nationwide, collectives nationwide, sports agencies nationwide, marketplaces nationwide, which means we see everything. We see what's going on in the space. We know what works. And so I'm going to share my screen a little bit here, because the first thing we're going to talk about before we talk about the 40 years and not the 4 years, okay, is how can you actually engage in NIL? Because if there's one thing I've learned throughout the country, if you know what you're doing, you're willing to put in a little work, and you're willing to be creative, every student athlete, whether D1, D2, D3, whether football, basketball, softball, swimming, rowing, can make $1,000 a month. So pay attention, follow my lead, ask questions, and let's go from here. But I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay. And let's go to full screen mode. Can everyone see my screen? We're good? All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, this is the first part. Confusion leads to inaction. If you're confused about the space, you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. And again, please let me know if you can't see my screen and my slides, okay? If you don't know where to go, what to do, you think NIL is not for you. And it's very hard to rely on your schools, because your schools don't know where to go. So they might tell you, we're not doing anything with NIL. That's not really true. They just don't know where to send you. So once you lift that confusion, that's when the action starts. So here I'm gonna get rid of that fog, and I'm gonna give you some clarity and tell you how to roll. All right, the first thing is marketplaces. I'm sure a few of you have heard of Influencer and Open Doors. That's fine, but there's so much more out there. I recommend everyone go sign up for IconSource today. All right, I recommend everyone go sign up for Market Price on the bottom right. Price, P-R-Y-C-E. Now that one's $9 a month. So if you're looking for the free ones, you go to IconSource, you go to Matchpoint Connection. Dreamfield is great. Dreamfield's got some really big ones coming from Fortune 500 companies. All right, No Cap, Mogul. These places are for any athlete to go, whether you're D1, D2, D3, because you'll go on there, and let's say there's a company called Bird Dog Shoes, right? They'll say, if you're a college athlete and you have over 1,000 followers, which I bet is everyone on this call, apply here. You'll be able to post something to your social media, and they'll give you $250 and a free pair of shoes. They'll give you a bunch of gift cards to go to restaurants. They'll give you free swag. There are things out there where all you have to do is be willing to engage. And by the way, once you do that, you get a few deals here and there. All right. Now, when people ask you, have you done NIL deals before? Have you engaged? As you reach out to local businesses, which we're going to talk about in a minute, you can say yes, because nobody wants to be your first, right? Everyone wants to make sure you know what you're doing. So again, write these down. We'll be able to send these to you after. But Dreamfield, IconSource, Matchpoint Connection are a few market price. What's really cool about IconSource and Dreamfield, though, is starting next week, if you get a deal on there as a student athlete, Athliance will be able to disclose the deal to your university without you having to do anything, right? There's reasons why your schools need it to protect you. I'm in the protection game, but at the same time, you need to be able to make sure you go out there and do what you need to do to be successful and start making your $1,000 a month.
Hey,
Hey,
Peter, I don't know if we're seeing your full screen. We currently just see the intro slide.
Oh, well, that's not working. Let me see something here. Well, that's not good. What about now? I just hit resume share.
No, we still just see the intro slide.
All right, well, let me try it one more time then. What about now?
Yes, much
All
better.
All right, let me leave this up for a second. And again, and I'll monitor the are you sharing part of this Zoom, right? But what I'll do is when I'm done speaking, just to speed this up, I'll go into the chat and I'll write some of these names down so you all have it there, okay? All right. All right, local businesses. This is what people forget about. And I was really excited to come on and speak to some student athletes at HBCUs. To me, NIL is the game changer for HBCUs. Your communities are so tight. You're so strong together. You love to support one another, whether that's boosters, alumni, or local business, okay? There are people that want to get involved. There are people that want to help you, okay? All you have to do, though, is know what you're doing and show a little bit of creativity and a little bit of effort. So someone tell me your favorite, just blurt it out, your favorite restaurant by campus. Someone give me something here. All right, well, I'm gonna make someone give me Mark, give me a restaurant by Grambling.
Well, I went there 30 years ago, but Tasty's.
Tasty's, you
Chicken.
said?
Yep, Tasty's.
All right,
Tiger House.
what's it
Tiger
called?
House.
Say that one more time.
Tiger
That's it.
House.
Tiger House. All right. So imagine I'm Peter Schoenthal, I'm an athlete, and I love Tiger House. If you sent them a DM or you walked in and you said, hi, my name is Peter Schoenthal. I'm a student athlete at Grambling. As you know, we have the ability to profit off of our name, image, and likeness. Your restaurant is my favorite restaurant by campus. I have 3,000 followers. I would like to come in and talk about doing an NIL deal where I can say, I think it was Tasty's, is my favorite spot by campus. This is where I fuel up before games. This is where you should come and eat too. Would you be willing to give me $100 and $200 worth of free meals every month that we do this? Make sure your grammar's good. You don't have to ask in the first one. You can start a dialogue. But if you start reaching out every month to 5, 10 businesses and 1 or 2 bite, and now you're on those marketplaces that I'm talking about, now we're at $300, $400 a month. We're getting free meals. Maybe we're reaching out to apparel companies, right? You can reach out to national companies like Chipotle. They do a lot of these things. Get creative. As the kids say, shoot your shot. All right. So let's do that with local businesses. Don't be afraid. And the beauty is right now, while kids aren't embracing NIL, you might be the only ones that reach out to them. And one of the great things about NIL that nobody talks about is when local businesses do deals, sometimes national publications write about it because it's so cool. That is what we call huge return on your investment. So when you go speak to these restaurants, you can say, look at all these articles that get written. Maybe if we do an NIL deal, we can tell the local paper, and now they're writing an article about what we're doing, and you're getting that much more press. Get creative. Show them what they can also get out of it while you get value as well. Camps and lessons. Some of you might not be superstars, and that's okay. But you are a star from where you come from. All right, so let me pull out my calculator here. Every student athlete now has the ability when they go home to do a camp. So let's say let's do football. I'm a football player. And when I go home in the summer, I'm going to do my first annual camp. And I'm going to charge $50 a kid, okay? And I get 50 kids to come out. And because my high school football coach loved me, he let me use the field, all right? So if we get 50 kids at $50 a pop, that's $2,500. Okay, let's say with t-shirts and banners, whatever, we spent $500. That includes a waiver that everyone signs. For one day's work, you just made $2,000 having fun with kids in your community, building your brand, and giving back to the game you love. You could do that twice a year. Now we're at $4,000 on that. Or let's talk about, while you're at school, you're a basketball player. All right. In the off season, you go to a local park and you reach out to all the high school basketball teams in the area. okay, the youth basketball teams, and you say, look, we're going to do some lessons. Every Thursday, I'm going to do an open run. First 20 people between the ages of 14 and 18, or we could do between the ages of 11 and 14, come out. It's $20. We're going to cap it at 20 people. We're going to run drills. We're going to run 5-on-5s up to 11. Winner stays on. We're going to do this for 2 hours. Okay. That's $400. Do that every Thursday. That's times 4. That's $1,600 a month. I'm a soccer player. Okay. Now I'm doing lessons for kids, maybe in a group of 2 or 3 at $50 a pop. There are a lot of parents that want their kids to learn from college kids to get them ready for the next level. So let's say once a week, I do a lesson of $50. 3 kids come, we keep it small. That's 150, right? Times 4, $600. You could do that really 3 or 4 times a week. Get creative. There's so much you can do. And then the last thing is get philanthropic. Start working with charities. Give back to the causes you love. And by the way, you'll be able to build your brand. So I've talked a little bit about that. I didn't talk about collectives. You're all here because we're with, Icon 1901. Let them be a resource. There is so much in the news about collectives that are bad. I promise you 95% of them are good. This is a good group. Rely on them, learn from them, get deals, and do it in a responsible way. And it will take you long into your life. All right, so examples, get your teammates involved. Maybe there's a star on here. Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh, okay? I'm only going to give a few examples because I only got so much time here, all right? Kenny Pickett was asked to do, he was a starting quarterback at Pittsburgh. He was asked to do an NIL deal with a local restaurant. Instead of taking money, he said, would you allow me and my offensive line to come for a free meal once a week and I'll do some NIL deal, all right? They agreed. He didn't do it for the publicity. But all of a sudden, the media found out he was helping his teammates and they ran a national story and he got 50,000 extra followers from it. Doing the right thing can benefit you individually, and that's okay. Don't do it for those reasons, but I promise you'll get a good benefit out of it. Band together for camps. Ohio State, 16 players came together and now they're running camps across the country this summer. All right. I'm just showing these to show you that you can get creative. All right. Dylan Gibbons. This is one of my favorite stories. Dylan Gibbons was an offensive lineman at Notre Dame. He transferred to Florida State. And while he was at Notre Dame, he met a fan up in Indiana that became a fan of Dylan Gibbons. So when he went to Florida State, Timothy, who has a physical disability and can't travel easily and is subjected to a wheelchair, all right, wanted to come to the first game of the year, which was Florida State versus Notre Dame in Tallahassee. So Dylan formed a GoFundMe with the hopes of raising $20,000. He ended up raising $50,000. Timothy was able to come to the game. And then ESPN Game Day ran a story about this, showing how amazing it was. They were able to raise an extra $20,000. Dylan Gibbons gained 50,000 extra followers on social media, which has led him to getting more NIL deals since this. And he has now started a company called Big Man, Big Heart. He runs a podcast, which we just learned about. It's amazing. All right. So get involved with your community as well. This was more of an example to show that NIL is for anyone. Now, I know Hersey Miller might have just transferred, and that might be a touchy subject here. Okay. And I know Master P's his dad. All right. But he was able to get a deal at Tennessee State University for a lot of money, but that actually brought more deals to the university. But Kaywan Dukes over at Johnson C. Smith, which I had never heard of before this deal, was able to get a deal with Bojangles because he just sent them a message. He said, this is my favorite spot. I want to get involved. I'm at, Johnson C. Smith, and they actually engaged with him. Shoot your shot. All right. This is the show. Azzy Fudd, a UConn basketball player, and Jaden Fields, a softball player, both female athletes at UConn in Georgia. They were able to partner with Chipotle for real foods and real athletes by literally just filling out a form online that Chipotle had posted at the time looking for NIL athletes, and they selected them based on their resume. Okay, it had nothing to do necessarily with their profile as an athlete. NIL is for everyone. All right, look for these opportunities. Now, a lot of these opportunities, okay, you can find on Icon Source, Dreamfield, where people are looking for brand ambassadors, which is going to serve you much longer when you leave school. I'm not going to talk much about build your brand, all right? I think we have a lot of good branding people on here, but I'm going to say this. You have always been a who you are as a person. You are now a what. It is your brand. Always protect the what. And our saying at Athliance is, don't post it if your mom won't like it. All right. Protect the brand at all costs. Disclose, disclose, disclose. Make sure your deals make it to your compliance departments. Okay. You are not supposed to know all the rules. We have federal bills. We have state bills. We have university policies. They're all drafted by lawyers. The rules make no sense. The best way to protect yourself is tell your school. If they don't say anything to you, you're good to go. All right. If you disclose a deal and you wait a couple days and they don't get back to you and they say you're good to go, or they say I don't see any eligibility issues, and down the road something happens and you told them all the info, you're in the clear. You did your job. You protected yourself. It is on the school. And the best part is the schools want this. The reason your schools are being uptight is because they think nobody is disclosing deals. And if they feel like they're in the dark, they're going to be more conservative. If they feel like you as an athlete are disclosing everything and you're working with them, they're going to be much more inclined not to give you any what. All right. So let them be the bad guys. And what I mean by that is let them know the rules. And I promise you, 99% of these deals, you're going to be okay. So as you look up on here, you're going to see a lot of things. It's time to start acting like a business. All right. You're going to see things like filing for a trademark, obtaining an LLC, making sure you're on top of your taxes. All right. But NIL is so much bigger than that. And there's two things that I think are great. Let's start with life after ball. Forever, college athletes have had these great skill sets that every employer in the country wants. You work hard, you overcome adversity, you play well with others, you have time management skills, you're coachable. If you run a business, you need those skills. If I'm hiring, like when I hire at Athliance, those are the things I'm looking for, okay? The problem is for 100 years, when student athletes came through that door for their first job, all right, they had no experience. I would look at them and I would say, what's your experience? Well, now you get to fire back and say, oh, I have an experience and it's running a business. All right. I have filed taxes for my NIL deals. Okay. I filed for an LLC. I obtained a trademark. I negotiated contracts. I built my brand. I built others' brands. I've been running a business that's the business of me. And now I have all those traits that you want. NIL, if you embrace it, you engage, you act like an entrepreneur, it's going to allow you to sell yourself when life after ball happens, because 99% of kids aren't going pro. And that's the beauty of this. The 40 years, not the 4. All right. Another thing about it is if you engage and you're making a few bucks, all right, you're more inclined to listen to that financial literacy, all right, and those life skills education. We've been trying to teach financial literacy to broke kids for 100 years. All right. When I was in law school and they taught me what evidence was, it made no sense because I wasn't practicing law. It wasn't practical. When I became a lawyer at first, I had to relearn all that. Well, now if you're making a few bucks, all right, and someone wants to talk to you about what a credit score is, what a 401k is, all right, smart money moves, what's the 60-20-20 rule, you're more inclined to learn it now, which is going to set you up to succeed when you leave school and get you roaring in your 20s. Embrace this. It's not all about today. It's about setting your life up in the future, because the older you get, the more you realize it's about your needs and not your wants. And if you can set you up to make smart decisions in your 20s, you're going to hit the ground running in your late 20s and 30s and not make a million mistakes like I did. All right. So that's what I have for you all today. NIL could be the greatest thing for all of you. It is for all of you. Embrace it, and let's go from there.
Well, I don't know about you all, but that got me really fired up. So, I mean, that was awesome. There was a wealth of information there. There's stuff that we can go back to and review over and over again. And like I said, Pete is a partner. He's not just here just for this one time. He's going to be here for the long haul because he gets the future and where this is going. And this is his passion. And man, that was awesome, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
That was great.
Thank you.